Let's go from this to this. The board that I chose to use is a Stair tread that gives you that nice curve in the front. And this is a 3/4 inch by 11.5 inch, and I got it at Menards. This is what it looks like before you stain it. This is the bottom of my unstained board. This is after you sand it and stain it. I used a natural Danish oil and just did a little, changed the color just a little bit, more orange or darker. This Danish oil is very easy to use, and there's some different colors you can use also. This is the brackets that I bought, and I bought the recommended screws, although technically it came with screws, so I don't really think you need these ones. But they're only like $6, so you got a lot of screws for that. It was a pretty good price. The screws that come with it are the same size that I ordered, so on this board they will come to almost the very end, but when you have the bracket on there, that'll add a little bit of space. But you have to be very careful when you're drilling the hole, because you want to drill your holes, pre-drill your holes, so that it doesn't split the wood. You want to use a drill bit that is big enough for the cylinder size of the screw, but not bigger than the ridges of the screw. I originally was using a smaller size than 3/32, but it was difficult getting the screws into the wood. When I switched to the 3/32 as shown, when I mounted the sliding trays to the tabletop, I found it much easier to screw in, and I just used a screwdriver, and definitely it was easier. I flipped the board upside down and aligned the proper brackets on each side and lined up the fronts together. I then marked the holes to drill. I went ahead and measured the marked holes to see if it was the same on each side prior to drilling. Put some tape around the drill bit so that you know exactly how far to drill, so you don't drill through your wood. Otherwise you're going to have a little hole when you see the top of your wood. Okay, now that you have the brackets on, perhaps you want it in the center of your desk like I did. To quickly know how to place something in the middle, take the larger dimension, which would be your desk, subtract a smaller dimension, which would be your keyboard tray, and then you have the difference. And then you divide that difference by 2, and that'll give you the equal sides in which you need to measure from, and you can mark your tape. By that I mean the painter's tape. You can align it to the board, and that painter's tape will tell you, in my instance, it'll tell me that's 25 inches from each side. Just a quick note here, I have some bonus tips at the end of the video to make the keyboard tray slide much better. Okay, back to the how-to section. Before you continue, you may want to make sure that your keyboard and mouse can fit in the current height setting. Or if you want to put like a MIDI keyboard, which is probably not going to fit, you'll need to adjust the height of the sliders by removing those 4 screws and put them in the lower slot. The next step is measuring how far back you want the brackets to be. I ended up measuring about 1 3/4 inch back, and then from the the front of the tabletop, and then 1 inch over. So on the left side it'd be 1 inch over to the left, and then 1 3/4 inch back, and on the right side it'd be 1 inch over from the edge of the wood, which would be the edge of the tape, 1 inch over, and then 1 3/4 inch back. This is all assuming that your tabletop and the board and everything is perfectly square. This next step is easier with another person, or using some kind of box to hold the tray up while you mark and drill the different holes. I mainly did this project so that I could use my MIDI controller keyboard and my normal keyboard and mouse with music production. I'm also hoping that it motivates me more by having quicker access to the MIDI keyboard. Alright, so here you can see it's about 8 or 9 inches of room which is basically like my other desk that came with a keyboard tray, and I've been using that for about 15 years. And this one's even wider, custom made obviously, and it gives you enough room. The mouse slides underneath. You want to make sure yours can, and you can lower this. Each one has a different, there's 4 or 5 different levels. Now if I switch to a different keyboard and it's higher, I might have to lower it. I can slide underneath just fine, which is why I didn't put this keyboard down here, because I'd have to raise this down even more or raise the desk more, and I didn't want to spend money and take everything off the desk and raise it with 4-inch pillars or whatever, and then this would be all higher. And I want this thing's kind of heavy, and I wanted a stable thing while I played. But when you're playing on a DAW, you want to edit too at the same time. And this is basically why I did this. So yeah, I think this is going to work out. Hopefully it motivates me more to play music instead of playing games, but we will see. I hope this guide helped you out. Alright, so I'm all done. I went ahead and tried to loosen the brackets a little bit on each side to kind of go out, to kind of make this a little bit more easy. That did help. Basically what I'm talking about is loosening the screws and pulling these brackets over as much as possible. That way it's not so tight, binding the board, especially if it ain't 100% square. Now this thing it locks in like super hard, like it definitely locks. Also, if you wanted it to roll out a little bit smoother, we can get some of the silicone paste. That way you don't have to spray and get spray everywhere on your mouse. It has like a little brush in it with a little bit of goop. We can maybe put in some on these railings right here. Just a tiny bit will go a long way, and then the bearing should pick it up, make it a little smoother. I went ahead and added the silicone paste with a brush, not too much, and just got the brush. You can kind of brush it into these right where the ball bearings are going to be touching, basically the top and bottom. And I think it slides. I did it on both sides. It seems to be gliding a lot better. Turned out really well.